you. Glory be to Allah. Greatest is the name of Allah. And high is the majesty of Allah. And there is no deity besides Allah. With conviction do we all believe in one and only Allah. We keep our blind trust in Allah. Our undivided loyalty lies with Allah. We beg His forgiveness, we seek His guidance, and we take refuge in Him from the evils of ourselves and from the evils of Shaitan. Peace and blessings, greetings and salutations be upon the best of all mankind, our beloved Nabi Muhammad. Before we proceed, boys and girls, together dua and waking up. All praise be to Allah. Before us after our sleep. And one day we shall be raised to Him. Dua for the morning together, boys and girls. Oh Allah, all our mornings are for you. All our evenings for you. Oh Allah, we live for you. Oh Allah, we die for you. And one day we shall be presented to you. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha Glory be Rise up, boys and girls, to pay our tribute and respect to our holy Nabi Muhammad. And let us convey our very special salutations for him. Allahumma salli wa sallim. Honorable staff members, dear boys and girls, on behalf of Masjid-e-Umar Yorkshire Muslim Academy, personally on my behalf, I would like to welcome you all to our very special Rabee-Ul-Awwal Assembly, all in the name of our Nabi Muhammad. First and foremost, before we move any forward, let us all express and declare our loyalty with the one and only Allah Azza wa Jalla. We are Muslims, we love Allah. We are Muslims, we love our Nabi. We are Muslims, we love our Quran. Muslims, we love our Islam. Boys and girls, your attention. Approximately 1500 years ago, 1500 years ago, in the city of Mecca, in the country of Saudi Arabia, there lived a very big tribe called the tribe of Quraysh. Amongst the tribe of Quraysh, there lived a very noble clan and a family called Banu Hashim. Within Banu Hashim, there lived a very happy and a very noble couple, one called Abdullah, the other called Amina. It wasn't too long before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed Bibi Amina to conceive a child. But unfortunately and very sadly, before Bibi Amina could give birth to the child, the father of the child, Abdullah, had already departed from the world. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Finally, it was the month of Rabee-Ul-Awwal, and it was the second Monday of the month. On a Monday, during the very early hours of the morning, at Tahajjud time, near enough at Fajr time, when it was still dark and dawn was about to break and the morning light was about to appear. So, at that very moment, our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu arrived to this world. It is said when he first made his appearance, at the time of his appearance, he came to the world as though he was already fallen in sajda with his head at the front and his back at the back, and with him falling on the ground as though from minute one he had shown his loyalty and his submission to one and only Allah. Amina, who gave birth to this child, she reports that I saw amazing thing at the time. What I saw at the time is when this baby was born, I saw the house filled with noor and light, and within that noor and light, I saw the palaces of Syria lit up and brightened up and illuminated. I saw very special light. Within that light, I saw who? I saw what? I saw palaces of Syria. And palaces of Syria were lit up and full of light. Then there were some ladies in the house who were looking after this little baby and who wanted to look after the mother, Bibi Amina, the whole house, the domestic nurses and the house nurses. One of the house nurse, she reports that at the time when this baby was born, we all felt that the room was filled with noor. And we could see as though the planets were coming in to the room and trying to squeeze into the room. This is what we felt at the time. Of course, it didn't happen physically, but this is what we felt. It was amazing to know whenever a child is born from any mother, whenever in the dunya, whenever a child is born from the mother, still the child and the mother are still attached together with a cord. There is a cord of flesh tied between the mother and the child, which needs to be cut by a nurse. It's called the umbilical cord. When our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, when this child was born, apparently everybody was amazed to note that there was no tie between the child and the mother. And as though somebody had already cut the umbilical cord before anybody having to cut it. It was very strange. Later on it was discovered that on that same day, at that same time when this child was born, there was one empire which was the biggest empire of the time. Like today, the American empire is known as the biggest empire. In those days, the biggest empire was the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire's king, he had a big royal palace that had 14 tall towers and 14 galleries with his palace. Of course, they were not Muslims. They were fire worshippers. The Persian Empire they were fire worshippers. The king had a big palace with 14 towers. Later it was discovered that on that same Monday of Rabee-Ul-Awwal, all 14 towers came crashing down on the ground. The palace was hit by an earthquake. And due to the earthquake, all the 14 towers came crumbling down. Maybe it was to say that fire worshipping is now going to come to an end, and the Persian Empire is going to come to an end, and now there will be an empire of Quran, and now there will be an empire of Islam, and there will be an empire of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In this empire, because they would worship the fire, so fire was too big for them, because they took fire as their God. Within the empire, there was one particular fire that they had lit, and they continued lighting it, and it was lit for 1,000 years, and it was never put out, because it was their God, so they didn't want this fire to be put out at any time. So the fire was running for 1,000 years, because they wanted to worship it around the clock. It was discovered later that on that same Monday in the month of Rabee-Ul-Awwal, in the same month of Rabee-Ul-Awwal, on that same Monday, this fire suddenly, miraculously, it came to an end, and it was put out. And this was unimaginable. A fire that was their God, that was there for 1,000 years, on that same day, it was put out. It was also discovered on that same day that in Iraq, we know a country called Iraq, don't we? And there are cities there called Baghdad. There is another city called Basra. Between Basra and Baghdad, there is one lake, a very popular lake called Lake Sawa. Lake Sawa. This Lake Sawa is quite miraculous because it has no water of ocean coming into it. It has no water of any other sea coming into it. Yet still it has water. It's a miracle in itself. However, the day when this child was born, on that same day, Lake Sawa dried up. There was no more water in Lake Sawa. And all around that area of Lake Sawa, there were lots of churches where Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, was taken as a member of divinity and being worshipped and taken as Son of God. Suddenly that Lake Sawa dried up and there was no more water into in the ocean, in the Lake Sawa. This child who had lost his father already and was not around, he was named by his grandfather Abdul Muttalib, and he decided to name him Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Just the chorus.
Ya Nabi salam alayka, Ya Rasul salam alayka, Ya Habib salam alayka, salawatullah alayka, Ya Nabi salam alayka, Ya Rasul salam
When this child was 4 years old, whilst he was playing in a playground with other children, suddenly there appeared two men dressed in white clothes. They made this little child Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam lie down on the ground. They cut open his chest. They cut open his chest. And as they cut open his chest, they took his heart out. Yes. And with the two people, they had a container made of gold. They had a golden container. In the golden container, there was very icy cold water that they had brought with them. The two men, they took the heart out and they washed the heart with the water they had brought with them. And after washing the heart, they put the heart in its place again. They sealed up the chest again, and it was back to normal as though nothing had happened. The other children who were playing around at the time with him, they rushed back home, and at the time Bibi Halima, who was his nursing mother at the time, and she was looking after Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they reported to her. They came running to the playground to find out if something very bad has happened to Muhammad, and they got really scared. But once they came in the playground, although Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam looked a bit terrified, but he was still okay. Do you know who the two people were? One was Jibreel and the other one was Mikael. The two angels came in the form of human beings. And what did they cut his chest up? Not out of anger, not they were after his life. They wanted to clean his heart as much as possible. So his heart, tomorrow when he is going to be the prophet, his heart is the cleanest of all hearts in the world. This happened when he was 4 years old. After 6 years again, once again when he was about 10 to 12 years old, there appears again the two same gentlemen in the form of human beings. They cut open his chest, they washed his heart with the same type of water, and they cleaned the heart, and they put the heart once again in the chest, and they sealed it up. This happened the second time. Later on, when our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was about to be crowned as a prophet, when he alayhi salam was about to be crowned as a prophet, and he was going to be made a prophet at the age of 40, once again the same two people came again and they operated on him. They took his heart out, cleansed it with the water they brought with them. They put the heart back, they sealed it up again as though nothing had happened. Who could be better surgeons than Jibreel and Mikael? Nobody could tell if this chest was ever opened. This was the third time this incident took place. Then again, when he was about 50 to 52 years old, once again the same two angels in the form of human beings, they came once again, they took his heart out, they cleansed the heart, and they put it back again where it belonged, and they sealed up the heart, and they took him this time when this incident happened, they took him for the tour of ascension, for the tour of Mi'raj. Allahumma صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا يا نبي السلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا نبي سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك तेरी मोहब्बत की महक से ये ज़मीन आसमान आबाद है रहमत की बरसात आती है दिलो जान या रसूल अल्लाह या नबी सलाम अलैका या रसूल सलाम अलैका faith and patience, you convey the noble message, brought this light through your guidance. Peace be upon you, my beloved. Ya Nabi, salam alayka. Ya زادنا الحب حنينا جئتنا بالخير دينا يا ختام المرسلين يا حبيبي يا محمد يا نبي يا رسول سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك. Anyone kids, I want you to concentrate loving the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Close your eyes if you have to concentrate. Make sure you're thinking about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, only Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, okay? Ya Nabi salam alayka ya Rasul salam alayka ya Habib salam alayka gentleman Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was crowned one day as a prophet. Before this, in Makkah, everybody worshipped idols. They would make statues out of stones. They would give them all different names and they would worship them. These were their gods. But our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ever since he came to this world, he condemned idol worship. He did not like to worship idols. And all these many years, for many years, he kept on contemplating and thinking, there must be someone very special that we need to worship. Fire cannot be the God. Statues cannot be the God. The moon and the sun cannot be the gods. There must be someone very special. For this very reason, many times he would leave the city of Mecca and he would leave the busy and bustling city of Mecca and he would go out in the suburbs of Mecca, in the mountains and in the caves, hiding himself for days and thinking, who is this Lord that we all need to worship? On many occasions, he would go to this very special mountain called Jabal-e-Nur. Outside of Mecca, there is a mountain called Jabal-e-Nur, the mountain of Nur. In this mountain of Nur, there is one small cave. The cave is called Hira. Hira. He alayhi salam, many times he would go to this cave and he would spend days and nights all alone, thinking, who is the real, ultimate Lord and worthy of worship? He would take some food with him and some drinks with him, and whenever he ran out of food and drink after some days, he would return home. He would spend some days at home and he would take again his necessities and he would once again go and meditate in this cave Hira. Suddenly one day, when he was part of this mission of meditation in Hira, he was visited by a visitor that was someone very, very extraordinary. It didn't look like a human being. It was something very special and very awesome. This being was very awesome, and he alayhi salatu wassalam became very influenced with his own. And this individual and this being hugged our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said to him, Iqra, read. Our Nabi replied, Ma ana biqari, I cannot read, I don't know what to read. He said again, Iqra, read. He alayhi salam said, I don't know what to read. This happened a few times. Then eventually this being asked him to read, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. He asked him to read these words and these verses. And our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he repeated these words. This was a clear explanation and expression of making him the prophet. From today he was told that he is going to be the messenger of Allah. He will be receiving messages from Allah, and he will need to convey and deliver these messages to the people of Makkah and beyond. This is the day when he became the prophet. The day when he first was visited by his being. Who was this being that he was visited by? Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel. From then on, he alayhi salatu wasalam continued to receive verses of the Holy Quran, surahs of the Holy Quran, one after the other.
مولاي صل وسلم دائما ابدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما ابدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما ابدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما there is no one like you, there is no one who's the same, so merciful is your nature, and so high is your name. All the prophets and messengers are in need of you, they all take sips from your ocean and desire to serve you. وكلهم برسول الله ملتمس طرفا من البحر أو رشفا من الديان مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا خطايا واسع الكرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما ابدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم كتبوا بكر عمر عثمان المولى علي. We love them for they have spent their lives in your company. Look at Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman المولى علي. We love them for they have spent their lives in your company. ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن علي وعن عثمان ذي الكرم. ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن علي وعن عثمان ذي الكرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. So beautiful were your moments with Siddiq in the cave. He stood by you all his life and sleep by you in the grave. So beautiful were your moments with Siddiq in the cave. He stood by you all his life and sleeps by you in the grave. Look at Abu Bakr, Uthman, Ali. We love them for they have spent their lives in your company. Look at Abu Bakr, Uthman, Ali. We love them for they have spent their lives in your company. ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن علي وعن عثمان ذي الكرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم.
Come on, you together with me, together, everyone. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا خير الخلق كلهم. Let's find out more about this gentleman, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Let me discuss with you some very exemplary stories about his love and care for me and you. And what a caring and loving person he alayhi salatu wassalam was. How kind he was. He says that sometimes I come to the masjid and I have all the intention of prolonging my salat. I want to make my salat as long as possible. Why? Because he alayhi salam loved the salat. There was nothing more that he loved than salat. So whenever he was in salat, he always wanted to prolong it. So he says many times I come with the intention that I want to give a long salat to everybody. But then he says that when I am leading salat, if as soon as I hear a child crying, because remember in the time of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the masjid, not only men used to come, men used to be there, children used to be there, and women used to be there also at the back, in the same way like you are sat in the assembly hall today. In all the salats, women used to come. They used to bring in their children, even sometimes very minor children. So he says that sometimes when I start my salat with the intention of making a long salat, but as soon as I hear a child crying, then I shorten my salat. I cut my salat short, only acknowledging and considering what the child's mother would be going through at the time in salat. She is in salat. She can't break her salat, but the child is crying. So naturally, she will be very concerned about why the child is crying. She wants to attend to the child, but she can't. So if I was to prolong the salat, I would be inflicting more suffering to her. So what do I decide to do then? I decide to cut my salat short. This is the care that he would have for children, for mothers, for everybody in his congregation. I want you to know that our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said that whenever Allah sent any prophet in the dunya, आगे सब जो कोई आवे तो पहले से उनको वहीं से साइड पर से आगे साइड पर से He alayhi salatu wasalam says that whenever a prophet comes to this world, every prophet is given one dua and promised with that dua that it will definitely be answered. You make any one wish and it will always be granted. He alayhi salam said, whichever prophet came to this world, every dua and wish was granted and they all used their dua. Nuh alayhi salam came, Ibrahim alayhi salam came, lots of old prophets came along, and whatever wish they made, every dua of each prophet was answered. And they already used this dua. He alayhi salam says, with me, I am not going to use this dua now in this world. What am I going to do? I am going to save it for the day of Qiyamah. I'm going to save this dua for the day of Qiyamah, and on the day of Qiyamah, I will use this dua asking Allah to forgive my ummah. Even though he alayhi salam, he went through a lot. Remember, there was a time when the whole society, they boycotted him and they boycotted his family. There was time when his daughters were divorced. There was time when he lost his very infant children. He went through a lot in his life, but never on any occasion did he want to use this dua that was given to him. He wanted to save it for me and you for the day of Qiyamah. One day, our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam started crying after missing his ummah, out of concern that what's going to happen with my people on the day of Qiyamah. He started crying. He was by himself. Allah knows everything. Allah can see everything. Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam to he alayhi salam. Allah sent Jibreel. Go and ask Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam as to why he is crying, although Allah is already aware. So Jibreel alayhi salam comes along and he said, "O Prophet of Allah, Allah is asking why are you crying?" So he alayhi salatu wasalam said, "I am crying because I don't know what's going to happen to my people on the day of Qiyamah. Will they be forgiven? Will they be given Jannah? Or will they be thrown in the hellfire?" So Jibreel alayhi wasalam went back to Allah and reported to him saying that he alayhi salam is saying that he is very anxious and concerned about his people. What's going to happen to them on the day of Qiyamah? Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam back to he alayhi salam, asking him to inform him that on the day of Qiyamah, Allah will please he alayhi salam and he will not disappoint him. In other words, go and tell Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam not to worry, not to cry, not to despair. Don't worry, on the day of Qiyamah, I will not disappoint you about your ummah. I will make you happy. This was the love and care he alayhi salam would have. And you know, boys and girls, me and you all night we remain asleep right until school time. Where the further time has gone, oh, not we don't care less. But do you know what he alayhi salatu wasalam used to do? He slept for a short while after Isha, and then in the middle of the night, he would wake up, he would make wudu, he would stand before Allah for a long time. When he went into sajda, he remained in sajda for a long time. And in sajda, what would he make dua? He would make a dua for me and you, and he would make a dua for the ummah, for his people. And the Sahaba and the household family members, they report that when he would fall in sajda, he would cry to Allah so much for me and you that if somebody was to hear the noise, they would assume there is a kettle boiling with water. He would cry so bitterly with sounds as though a kettle is boiling with water. That's how much he cared for me and you. And this is how much he loved his people.
الشكر علينا ما دعا لله طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير داع طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع.
How humble and simple was this gentleman One day, Allah sent an angel to our Nabi Muhammad, asking him that we give you a choice, whether you be a prophet, but on top of that, Allah can make you the king. You can be the king of the Arabs, and you can be the prophet at the same time. Or option 2 is you be just the prophet and an ordinary man, not a king. Do you want to be a prophet and a king, or just a prophet? Do you know what he alayhi salatu wasalam chose? Which option would you have chosen? You would have chosen me, and you would have chosen to be the king. But he alayhi salatu wasalam, he chose that he wanted to be just an ordinary prophet, and he didn't want to be a king. And he led a very, very humble, simple life, no luxuries. In fact, very hard life of poverty. Do you know what was the poverty of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? If I open my wardrobe, then there will be lots of clothes. If you open your wardrobe, you will find there will be lots of pair of clothes in your wardrobe. Do you know he alayhi salatu wasalam, how many pair of clothes he had in his life? Only 1 or 2. On one occasion, look at these boys and girls. One day, Bilal radiallahu anhu came to Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, knocking on his door, and he said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, people are waiting in the masjid for you to come and lead salat. Everybody is ready and everybody is waiting for you to come along and lead salat." He alayhi salam did not open the door, and from behind the door he said, "Oh Bilal, I've only got 1 pair of clothes and I've just washed them now and I've left them to dry. As soon as they are going to be a little dry, I will be come along because I have got no other pair of clothes to wear." Ya Nabi Salam Alayka, Ya Rasul Salam Alayka, Ya Habib Salam Alayka, Salawatullah Alayka. Not only that, one day, he was asked and given another choice. "Oh Prophet of Allah, Allah has sent me to ask you that if you wish, we can turn all these mountains of Mecca into gold for you. Do you wish to have that? If you wish to have that, we can easily convert them into gold." You know what was the reply of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? He said, "Thank you very much. I do not need to have these mountains of Mecca turned into gold. I would rather one day be fasting and be hungry, so I can enjoy communication with Allah and I can become attached to Him, and only next day I should get my daily bread." In other words, one day I should have nothing to eat, and only next day I should have something to eat, so that the next day when I have food, I can thank Allah. Ya Nabi Salam Alayka, Ya Rasul Salam Alayka, Ya Habib Salam Alayka, Salawatullah Alayka. Not only that, we are all shocked to know this, that the day when our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left this world and he passed passed away on that same night, that last night that he spent in this world, during the night, the house and he alayhi salam did not have enough oil to light their candle and their lantern. In the house, there was not enough oil. Remember, in the olden days, they did not have this electricity and mechanical lights. What would they use? A candle, lanterns, and those lanterns needed the fuel of oil. They would use olive oil, they would use other types of oil. In his house, they had run out of oil. There was not even enough oil for the night. They had to borrow oil from the next door. At the same time, let us discuss how fair this gentleman Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was. How fair he was in his dealings. Very interesting stories, and I want your attention. When Muslims were getting ready for a battle with the non-Muslims and the kuffar in the battle of Badr. Badr was approximately a good 150 kilometers away from Medina. Look at me, everyone, boys and girls. Your attention. But the Muslim army did not have enough animals to ride on to take them to the battlefield of Badr. There were very few animals and camels that they could use to get them there. So what was decided? That between every 3 soldiers, there will be one camel and they will have to share. And the way they will share is 2 people will mount on the camel and the third person will walk. And then one of them, 2 on the camel, one of them will need to get off, and the one who's been walking, he can mount onto the animal. So for every camel, 3 people were divided. For every 3 people, 1 camel. He alayhi salatu wasalam's company was made of him, his cousin Ali radiallahu an, Ali ibn Talib, and the third person is Abu Lubaba. So they wanted Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to mount on the camel. They didn't want him to walk. So one of them, 2 between Ali and Abu Lubaba, they decided to walk. And he alayhi salatu wasalam was now on the camel and they were walking. As they were walking, only they didn't go too far. He alayhi salatu wasalam said, it is now my turn to get off, and the one who's walking, he needs to get onto the back of the animal. They both refused. This is not possible. We will not allow you to walk. How would they allow our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to walk? So they said, no, between me and Ali, between Abu Lubaba and Ali, they will walk, but on your turn, you will not be walking. What do you think was the reply of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? He said, this will never happen, because he said, you are no more stronger than me, that only you should be walking and I shouldn't. You are no more stronger than me, and I don't need any less of the reward from Allah than you. Just as if you need a reward from Allah, I am just as in need of reward from Allah, and I need to put my share of walking. And do you know what he alayhi salam did? With all the fairness in the whole travel of 150 kilometers on all his part, whenever it was his turn to walk, he would get off the animal and he would walk and make the other 2 sit on the camel. So he alayhi salam is walking and the other 2 Sahaba are on the animal. Not because that's what they wanted, this was the fair choice of our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Ya Nabi salam alayka, Ya Rasul salam alayka, Ya Habib salam alayka, salawatullah alayka.
As I've told you before, that our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam led a very a life of poverty, a big life of poverty he led. He was never a rich man. He always, at many point, he would owe people money for his home provisions. To buy his household shopping, he would have to borrow money. On one occasion, he had borrowed the money, or maybe he bought some shopping, but he had no money to pay for his shopping. So he said to the shopkeeper that I will pay you later. And they all had blind trust in him, and they would give him shopping for him to pay at a later stage. So there was one Jewish rabbi is like a Jewish priest, but he was also a businessman. And he alayhi salatu wasalam owed him some money. Look at this, listen to me very carefully. he alayhi salam had to give him money back. He owed him money. One day when he alayhi salatu wasalam was in masjid at Zohar time, suddenly that Jewish rabbi whom alayhi salam owed him money, he stormed into the masjid. And he got hold of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he said, I want my money now. He said, what? I want my money now. So Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam at the time was in the masjid. He did have no money, neither with him nor at home. There wasn't a penny. So he said, I'll give it to you, but I can't give it to you right now. I haven't got any. So do you know what he said? I will not let you leave the masjid until you pay me my debt. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, you got the right to arrest me, to keep me here, to hold me back in the masjid, that I give you right. But I have got no money to pay you immediately now. So he said, I am sorry, in that case you cannot leave the masjid. So now he alayhi salam is there for Zuhur. He wouldn't let him go after Zuhur. He wouldn't let him go after Asr. Then imagine the detention. And he wouldn't let him go after Maghrib and after Isha. By now the Sahaba, well, he did not allow anybody to know what was happening in the masjid. But somehow the Sahaba found out that why should this Jewish rabbi stay in the masjid for such a long time? So they inquired, said, oh Prophet of Allah, is this Yahudi giving you detention and not allowing you to leave the masjid? Is he holding you back? So Sahaba said, yes, he's holding me back, but he's got every right to do that. He has got every right to do that. Allah has not made it halal for me to kill the right of anybody, whether he is a Muslim or whether he is a Jew or otherwise. It is not halal for me to kill his right. It is his right to have his money back, and he is allowed to hold me back. And you will not say anything to him. He alayhi salatu wasalam told the Sahaba, you will leave him alone. He should remain unharmed. And this continues now. What happens? Overnight after Isha, he wasn't allowed to go. So he stayed in the masjid throughout the night. How many namazes has it been already? Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Until the next day, Fajr namaz. Between Fajr and Zuhur time, this Jewish rabbi now he comes once again into Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, oh Muhammad, I was only testing your patience and I was only testing your manners and etiquettes, whether they match with what it has been said in our holy books, the Torah, whether it matches what we really see with our eyes. So I was only testing you. I am not after money. I have already seen your patience, your justice, your fairness, and I would like to declare La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The Jewish rabbi, he embraced Islam. He became a Muslim the next day after seeing his manners for 24 hours. Ya Nabi Salam Alayka, Ya Rasul Salam Alayka, Ya Habib Salam Alayka, Salawatullah Alayka, Ya Nabi Salam Once we are still on the subject of how just he was and he never abused his authority and his position, one more incident. One day our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was straightening the rows of the soldiers just before the battle was about to start. He alayhi salam was putting everybody in their places and he was straightening their rows. Whilst he was straightening the rows, he had something like a stick in his hand. When one of the soldiers, his body was sticking out from the row, he was ahead of the row a little, he alayhi salam nudged him with his stick and asking him to stay in the rows correctly, in the right place. The man turned around as he alayhi salam nudged him on his belly and asked him to stand in the row in the night. He turned around and he said, "O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are the one who has told us that we can take revenge from one another. I want to avenge myself. You have poked me with your stick and I want to poke you back." Listen to this. I want to poke you back. Are you thinking of me now? You want to poke me back? Alright, so do you know what Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did? Listen to this, very interesting. He is the commander-in-chief now. He is the Nabi. He is the Imam. And he's only poked this one soldier, asking him to have discipline in the rows, and he wants to take revenge. So he alayhi salatu wasalam said to him, listen to this. He says to him, come along and take the revenge. You do the same to me. So he said, all right. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there you are. So he said, no, I haven't got my shirt on. You got your shirt on, so you need to take your shirt off. Because you did it on my bare skin, and I'll do it on your bare skin too. Isn't it shocking? Yes. I can see it's not you are shocked, but I'll tell you what comes is very good. So he alayhi salatu wasalam pulled up his shirt. Don't worry, I'm not going to go all the way. Okay? He pulled his shirt up until his skin of his stomach could be seen. Now the Sahabi, the soldier comes forward and he jumped on Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's belly and started kissing his stomach. He said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, my intention wasn't to poke you back with a stick. I only wanted to touch my skin with your skin. So on the day of Qiyamah, this skin will never enter into hell." This was my intention. But he alayhi salam never knew that he had intention of kissing his skin. He thought that he wants to take revenge, and he was there available. He made himself fully available. Ya Nabi Salam Alayka, Ya Rasul Salam Alayka, Ya Habib Salam Alayka, Salawatullah Alayka.
वो मुहम्मद भी अहमद भी हामिद भी वो मुहम्मद भी अहमद भी हामिद भी हुस्ने मुतलक का शाहिद भी मशहूद भी इल्म व हिकमत में वो गैर महदूद भी ज़ाहिरन उम्मियों में उठाया गया मुस्तफा 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 सय्यदुल अव्वलीन सय्यदुल आखिरीन मोह मेरा तुझसा कोई नहीं, तुझसा कोई नहीं, मुस्तफा 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 शफ़ीए मुज़निबीन ख़ातमुल मुरसलीन वो है मेरा नबी, वो है मेरा नबी, तुझसा कोई नहीं, तुझसा कोई नहीं, मुस्तफा 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 मुस्तफा
There isn't one quality to discuss, and there isn't two. There are far too many to discuss. One very interesting story, and the story is not just interesting for other reasons. Bigger reason behind this is how forgiving our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. During his days, there was a normal practice of people sending a gift, cooked food and non-cooked food to each other's house, even the Jews to the Muslims, and the Muslims to the Jews. One day, listen to me this very carefully, boys and girls. One day, one lady, she decided to cook, to make some barbecue for our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the intention were not holy and honorable. She had really bad intention. She wanted to poison the meat, the goat meat. She wanted to poison it and send the poisoned goat to our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam so that he can eat and be content. And she inquired from other people. जो नज़ीर कौन है पीछे? नज़ीर कौन है पीछे? नज़ीर जो भी आते हैं मेहमान वहां पीछे, इसी तरह साइड पे शुरू से बिठा दो, साइड पे तो. And she inquired from other people that what part of the meat he alayhi salatu wasalam likes the best. So she was told by some people that he likes the arm meat, the meat that comes from the arm of the goat. He likes that the best. So do you know what she did? While she was barbecuing the goat, she put more poison in the arm of the goat. And now the whole barbecue was now ready, and she sent it to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He alayhi salam never liked to eat, put things by himself, so he invited other people. So lots of Sahaba were also together, now eating the barbecue and all enjoying it. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he extended his hand towards the arm of the goat. नसीर फिर सुनो अच्छी तरह, वहीं से पीछे से इनको इस तरह बिठाओ, पीछे से दरवाजे, आप इस तरफ दराज चले जाओ, नसीर आप यहाँ बैठो ना, वहां से इस तरह पीछे से लड़कियां बैठती हैं, पीछे से उनको इस तरह आगे, आप इस तरह दरवाजे पर खड़े हो. Now what happens next? Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam starts to have a bite from this arm of the goat. As soon as he has a bite, God knows what he heard. What happened next? Immediately he spits it out. And now he says, he asked the Sahaba, who has sent this meat for us? So he was told that this Jewish woman has sent it for us. So he said, call her in. So she was invited to come. She came standing there. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked her, was it you who sent this meat? Yes, I did. Have you added poison to this meat? So she said, how do you know I have added poison to the meat? He alayhi salatu wasalam said, as I was starting to eat the arm of the goat, the arm spoke to me, and the arm said to me that I have been poisoned, do not eat. And this is in hadith, not making up stories. So then she had no reason to deny. So she agreed, yes, I had poisoned the meat. So he alayhi salam calmly asks him the next question, what made you do this? So she said, I thought to myself that if he isn't a prophet of God, then let him die and good riddance. Let's get rid of him. If he's not a God, if he's not a prophet of Allah, if he's a liar, then let him die. And I thought to myself that if he is a prophet of Allah, then I'm sure Allah will protect him from death. So I wasn't worried. And this is what made me do this. I was testing whether you are a real prophet of God. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to this lady, do you not call this attempted murder? This is attempted murder, for which there is, even in this today's very permissive society, there will be a good 35 years of imprisonment. Otherwise, attempted murder is regarded as a murder, and there would be capital punishment, death. But because it was Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's own matter, he decided to forgive the lady and send her back unharmed. Ya Rabbi, salam alayka, ya Rasul, salam alayka, ya Rabbi, salam alayka,
कि मेरे दिल में बसी हो याद मोहम्मद कि मेरे दिल में बसी हो हर वक्त तसव्वुर में मदीने की गली हो हर वक्त तसव्वुर में मदीने की गली हो यार मोहम्मद की मेरे दिल में बसी हो यार मोहम्मद की मेरे दिल में बसी हो ऐ काश मैं बन जाऊं मदीने का मुसाफिर ऐ काश मैं बन जाऊं मदीने का मुसाफिर फिर रोती हुई है बाखों बारात चली हो फिर रोती हुई है बाखों बारात चली हो ऐ काश मदीने में मुझे मौत आए ऐ काश मदीने में मुझे मौत आए कदमों में तेरे सर हो मेरी रूह चली हो कदमों में तेरे सर हो मेरी रूह चली हो आका का गला हूँ ऐ जहन्नम तू भी सुन ले आका का गला हूँ ऐ जहन्नम तू भी सुन ले वो कैसे जले जो ये गुलामे मदनी हो वो कैसे जले जो ये गुलामे मदनी हो हर बात तसव्वुर में मदीने की गली हो हर बात तसव्वुर में मदीने की गली हो और याद मोहम्मद की मेरे दिल में बसी हो याद मोहम्मद की मेरे दिल में बसी हो
A very, very big thank you, staff members, boys, girls, for your patience throughout the whole Rabee-Ul-Awwal Assembly. And why not? It was all about our Nabi Muhammad. Let us all announce our love for him. We love our Nabi. We love our Allah. We love our Quran. We love our Iman and Islam. أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Girls, you will now slowly leave with your left foot out first, reading to Allah.